Stephen A. heated in Michael Jordan GOAT debate.
It's often made between him and one and only Michael Jordan. And he said this, quote, "There are a lot of things that MJ did better than I do. And I think there are some things that I do better than him. That's just how the game goes. There's a lot of things that I can say in particular. You already know how this conversation is going to be misinterpreted by people, man." And then McManaman asked, has it been a burden as an adult, that ambition? Because now everybody brings it up. You can't escape the comparison. To which LeBron responded by saying, quote, "No, I think it's a very tiring conversation. It's barbershop talk. You can look at both of us and say that you love both of us without trying to shh on the other person. And usually it's the shh on me. But I know for sure that I've done my part in this journey. And more than anything, I hope, and I don't know, but I hope I made him proud, at least wearing that number 23, end quote. Okay, so when LeBron speaks on the matter, then we have to have the discussion here, Stephen A. What are your thoughts on what LeBron had to say about himself and Michael Jordan?
I came across, and I think that it's relatively disappointing. And I want Mike Wilbon and Doggy, two historians, people that I look up to. So I want to say this directly in front of them, and I'm open to the discussion. Everything that LeBron James said was right on point. When he dissected the difference between his game, Michael Jordan, how he looked at things, how he approaches the game. He looked to pass first, Michael Jordan looked to shoot first, etc., etc. All of those things are accurate. I didn't have a single syllable that he uttered until the last line, when he talked about you can look at two guys without, for the purpose of shitting on somebody. But obviously it's usually somebody doing that to me. That is where the problem lies. Because what we don't talk about enough, Wilbon and Doggy, is as great as LeBron James is and how much he deserves to be celebrated, we don't talk about what he has done to hurt, not the game, but narratives associated with the game because of how he responds to it. I looked it up, Wilbon and Doggy. Do y'all know that there have been over 5,400 players in NBA history that have played in the NBA? Put Wilbon and Doggy up on the screen, please. I want to see them. 5,400 plus players in the NBA. I have LeBron James as number 2 all time. We're talking about Russell. We're talking about Kareem. We're talking about Wilt. We're talking about Kobe. We're talking about Elgin Baylor and Oscar Robertson and all these people. I have the man number 2. In his world, that's an insult. That is how he has acted with so many people along the way. But he doesn't do it directly, as you know, Wilbon, and as you should know, Doggy. Oh, no. Other people do it for him. I remember years ago when I'm sitting there joking around with Rich Paul, and I'm like, y'all act like that's an insult. Seriously, with a serious face, Rich Paul looks me in the face. It is an insult. What? That is the problem. And so what happens is they've given the impression that I'll use the word poop for FCC airwaves now. That we're pooping on players, okay? We're talking about them. What do we do to today's players that wasn't done before? I understand the advent of social media and beyond, and that everybody has a voice and everybody has a podcast and everybody got something to say. But in terms of the actual narratives, who hasn't gone through it? You tell me the player, Wilbon, you've been coaching, you've been covering the NBA for 40 years. You tell me, Doggy, Hall of Fame radio host for 40 years. You tell me what has been said about today's players that wasn't said about dudes in the past in terms of their on-court performance. We always compared. We always put one above the other. We talked about Isaiah Thomas. Isn't he one of the greatest point guards to have ever lived? Didn't we bring up Nate Tiny Archibald? Didn't we bring up Bob Cousy? Didn't we later bring up the Allen Iversons of the world? Haven't we brought up Magic Johnson? Didn't we bring up John Stockton? Didn't we bring up, name after name, shoot guards, Elgin Baylor, Oscar Robertson, all of these people. Jerry West was the silhouette. Didn't we bring up the fact that he had 1 title in 9 tries? We've done it to everybody. Didn't we bring up the turnovers with Magic Johnson in the finals against Boston, where he cried like a baby in the shower, Wilbon, which you know better than most? It broke his heart, and how he was determined to come back and got him not once but 2 more times. Didn't we talk about that? The great Wilt Chamberlain, didn't we say he quit during an NBA Finals appearance? But somehow, some way, all of these generations of players embraced and accepted it's talk, it's basketball talk, and it's reserved for the great ones. So we can debate it, but there's no doubt.
At this stage, the argument becomes less about basketball and more about perception. The criticism aimed at LeBron James suggests that his response to comparisons, especially with Michael Jordan, has influenced how debates are framed today. The takeaway here is that the issue isn't the comparison itself, but how it's interpreted. What used to be standard competitive discourse is now often viewed as disrespect, which shifts the tone of the conversation away from analysis and toward emotion.
If your name is in the conversation, it's because you're an all-time great. But when it comes to LeBron James, oh no, you pooping on a player. You dogging them. It's the negativity. It's what's happened to the game. And instead of appreciating how he is revered, how much we'll miss him when he's gone, how we cannot deny that this man belongs on the Mount Rushmore of basketball. My career wouldn't be what it is if it were not for people like him. Yours wouldn't either. Yours wouldn't either, Doggy or Wilbon. None of us. They helped us be who we are. But we're talking about it, and when we talk about it and we compare, oh, we're dogging them. And you've fostered that mentality to the modern day players in such a way that the heightened level of sensitivity has regressed to a point of embarrassment where we're literally looking at grown men who are elite, prestigious. We look at them, we admire, damn it, we wish we were them, at least physically and in terms of their capabilities, because we know they are things that we could never hope to be. We talk about it, we celebrate it, we debate it, we revere them, we big up them, we prop them, all of it. And none of it matters because how dare you compare? That is what LeBron James does when he brings out the part of us pooping and diminishing the players. He takes it that way, but then he leaves it to others to speak on it instead of owning it himself. You have a conversation, and that's all it would take. I'll say this last part. All of that stuff that happens with he and I'm not rooting against him. I'm a grown man. Wilbon is my big brother. Wilbon talked to me many, many times. You understand? I got it. I wish that man nothing but the best. I'm looking forward to celebrating him tonight. Bronny's looking good. Got a lot of potential. I'm really happy for him. Truly, truly am. But all the stuff that happened is because of that narrative right there. And LeBron James confirmed it yet again. His heightened level of sensitivity attaches an angst and a negativity to it that isn't there. He's on the Mount Rushmore of basketball. He never hears that. Instead, he hears that, oh, he's not the GOAT. And because of that, it's insulting to him. That is what the problem is with him and a lot of the modern day players who are so anxious to support him instead of listening to what we're actually saying.
Stephen A., the thing is, that's not particular just to basketball. That's the culture we live in now.
Okay.
Popular music, entertainment, hating on, any criticism is seen as that. Okay. I've tuned a lot of that out. I've tuned most of it out. I tune out the people. I hear you about when they talk about people around LeBron, including Rich Paul. I've said to Rich, you know, if calling LeBron a top 5 basketball player is an insult to you, get over it. So I've tuned them out. I've tuned that out. Everything LeBron said in that interview with Dave McMenamin, everything he said is right on the money. Everything he said. But LeBron is the one who puts the crown on his head. LeBron is the one who has said he's the GOAT. Michael doesn't say that. And the conversation has become tiresome to me because you almost
The broader discussion revolves around the evolving culture of sports debate. Comparing great players has always been central to basketball discourse, and figures like Michael Jordan were scrutinized just as heavily in their era. The difference now lies in how those comparisons are received and amplified in the modern media landscape. Another key point is the duality in how LeBron James is perceived. On one hand, he is universally recognized as one of the greatest players ever, firmly placed in any all-time conversation. On the other, the constant push to define him as either the greatest or not seems to overshadow appreciation for his achievements. The segment also highlights the role of external voices, media, fans, and people within players' circles, in shaping narratives. These influences can intensify debates, sometimes turning what should be respectful comparisons into polarizing arguments. Ultimately, the conversation reflects a shift in how greatness is discussed. While past generations embraced debate as part of legacy building, today's environment often blurs the line between critique and disrespect. That tension is what keeps the LeBron James vs. Michael Jordan discussion ongoing, and at times exhausting.